Roasting, ready?
Yep. Yes.
All right, so we've gone from cherry to bean, and then it's got to come here and then get roasted or wherever. And you tend to roast at origin or at destination, where it goes.
Where it ends up.
Yeah, where it ends up.
How long will they store green? Like, well.
I've had perfectly wonderful green coffee 9 months, and at that point it's already a year old because it was 3 months in from harvest. Yeah, right. As long as it's stored, humidity controlled. Again, I store them in those Grain Pro bags. So they're shipped and then they're distributed into smaller Grain Pro bags stateside. All right, so like you said, green bean, 11% moisture. Then we roast it. And I have a video. Let's see if it works. You think it's going to work? Oh, there it goes. That's actually one of my roasters running there. So you start with green, and then the first phase is drying. It's getting darker and darker, and then once it dries, then the sugars start to caramelize, the Maillard reaction, right? Like browning, right? And why do we like to brown things? Like our baked goods and our steaks and whatever. Yeah. So that actually brings out sweetness. What happens? You ever make caramel? Right? You're stirring the sugar, and what happens? It's very, very nice, and then it goes very, very bad very quick. Yeah, burnt. Yeah, it just gets too hot, or it just transitions from caramel to black very quickly. It can.
Solid at least, yeah.
Or solid, yeah. Same thing happens with coffee. Once the roast is done, I shut off the burner. Then it's just cooling down. Then I don't have to worry about it. But getting the end of the roast right, it varies because room temperature, outside air temperature, because I'm venting outside from the roaster. This is air roasting, by the way, if you didn't notice that. It's hot air coming up through the coffee beans, agitating the bean. It is. It's a very large popcorn popper.
So could I roast coffee beans at home in my popcorn cup?
That's how I started.
Wow.
So first crack. So you'll see it as it's expanding. I can show the video again. I thought it was just going to cycle, but it's not.
It's dangerous to remember.
I know it, Jake.
So the beans, you can see. Look at the volume in the chamber. You're going to see it's going to actually because the water's being forced out by the hot air, or by whatever temperature, however you're applying the temperature. And so the bean is expanding, and there's a crack, which is very audible, when that initial outside chaff pops off. And then it continues to expand. The second crack is when it expands all the way open. That's when that inside chaff comes out.
So will the chaff go out the venting thing?
Yeah, there's a collection chamber up above.
How long is that process in reality?
From when I start to when I stop the roast, unless they're a very light roast customer that likes them very light, probably 8 to 9 minutes.
Oh gosh, okay.
Yeah, I used to go a little bit longer, but actually just probably a month ago, I changed my roasting style, which the customers all responded very well to, even though I didn't tell them that I did. They said, these coffees are amazing. I was going a little bit longer, like 20 seconds longer. But shortening it up by about 20 seconds made a huge difference.
Wow.
Because it almost tastes more baked.
Okay.
Yeah, a little flatter. So you're starting to, what's happening is you're starting to break down some of the volatile compounds, like the acids especially, aromatic stuff.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, so first crack. Second crack, I gave you temperatures here, about 435 in the beans. That's when you see oils starting coming out to the surface. Those are called dark roasts. I do basically one coffee up to second crack. That's that Tenebrae I mentioned before for espresso. There's reasons to do that for espresso. It's easier to brew mostly. And then I have customers that request it that dark. So I will do it on request. And they just add it to their order notes. And even if they're a subscriber every month, I just know, especially decafs, which we haven't talked about yet, but we will. Decafs that are not roasted darker, they taste more grassy, I guess, or more green. Even though they're not green anymore, it's the decaffeination process that does that. All right, so I tend to be done long before second crack, but depending on the coffee, I'm going to let it develop after that first crack because I want to bring out those sugars and those various, most of the sweetness. And which coffee and how long, it depends on how it's processed, it depends how large the bean is. So it's all just being attentive to the roasting. And then some of it, I guess now, well, how many years in? 10 years? It's instinctive. A lot of it, I'm like, that's a dry process Ethiopian. Like, that's going to be closer to 8 minutes probably, and I set my timer if I have to walk out of the room for a minute. So I'm there, I got a minute to spare. I can be really attentive at the end of the roast. My roaster is computer controlled, by the way. So that's why I can do that. Some commercial roasters, you're having to modulate the temperature and the airflow the whole time through, right? But mine is, it was more expensive, but it's the way to go. The computer modulates all those things, and I pre-program it. I still have to be attentive, because even the batch size, if the batch size is just slightly different, then the end point is going to be different. So, does that all make sense? Yeah. That was fluid bed. So it actually looks like it's sitting on a bed of water, or it's moving around like water. That's called fluid bed. More common is a drum roaster. So where it's going like this, the beans are in, there's hot air, and that's convection, and then there's conduction, heat as well, coming from the drum itself. That's more common, it's more efficient, but it's also much more risky, because and maybe less consistent, because some beans are going to come in contact with that drum, and you can have what's called tipping or scorching. Since I started with the popcorn popper, going to a larger popcorn popper made sense to me, because I just liked how the coffee tasted.
Well, with the drum, you'd be working with two variables, hot air and hot drum.
I'm still working on those two, but the hot air is not really, that's controllable. I can control the temperature of the air, but the airflow I can't change, because it's necessary to keep the beans agitating. So there's one constant airflow, but differing air temperature. Right, so the burner shut on and off to modulate the temperature. But that's computer controlled, and it's happening every half second, right, on and off. It's checking the temperature to try to fit the profile that I'm trying to apply the heat. Okay, good question. Yeah, more variables, more difficult, more artistry probably required. Yeah. I've thought, I could get a small drum roaster and try to learn it. And then my better senses took over.